Hallo Deutschlerner. I never took notes in high school, like, ever. I don't remember writing down a single thing that the teacher said from the beginning of freshman year until after graduation. I spent most of my time in class either doodling, doing some creative writing of my own, or just sleeping. So when I got to college, it was a big shock in two ways. First, not everything that I needed to know for class was spoon-fed to me during class. I had to read outside of class in order to keep up. I also couldn't just memorize everything the teacher said just after they said it once. This forced me not only to learn how to take notes, but also how to use those notes to graduate with honors. Today, I'm going to share with you not only how to take notes to make sure that you retain the information for the test, but also to retain it for while you're in Germany and you need that phrase from class to make it through the day. No matter how you take notes in class, the first thing you need to do is listen. I don't mean listen the way that you listen when your mom tells you to clean your room. I mean listen like someone is explaining to you how to disarm a bomb that is sitting on the table in front of you. Your hands can move and you can occasionally look down to make sure that you're doing it correctly, but you need to hear the sounds coming from the teacher, process those sounds into some sort of information, sort that information to find the most important parts, and then write those things down in your notebook. Practice active listening. There are a lot of ways to do this, but here are my recommendations. No headphones. Not just in one ear, not hanging around your neck, not set up just behind your ears. No headphones. No cell phones. Not in your pocket, not in the chair next to you, not under your leg. In your backpack is fine, provided that it never comes out of there during class. No cell phones. Repeat what the teacher says to you in your head. The average human speaks around 125 words per minute. The average brain can process up to 800 words per minute. This gives you time to repeat the words as they are saying them in your head. You don't even need to do this word for word. You can listen and think fast enough to listen, process, and summarize in your head. Then you can use that summary when you get to the real note-taking tips in a minute. Don't look at the teacher's eyes, watch their mouth. When you want someone to think that you are paying attention to them, look them in the eyes. If you actually want to retain the information they are telling you, look at their mouth. This allows you to really focus on the words and what is being said. It also comes in handy in a language course because then you can mimic the way that their mouth moves when you speak in the target language, which will improve your pronunciation skills. Now, most people will tell you to have a dedicated notebook that you use for each class, one for science, one for math, and one for German. I actually don't recommend this. I recommend that you use 2 notebooks for each class. You have a rough draft notebook and a polished notebook. Here's why. When you take notes in class, the notes are written hastily. The information as it is presented in class may not be the best, most organized way to put the information together in your brain. It probably makes sense to the teacher, but on an organizational level, it might not mesh well with your learning process. So how do we fix this? You write your notes twice. First, take notes in class using the other tips in this video. Keep them as organized as possible during class, but don't worry if something is out of place, they don't look terribly neat or even complete. What you are looking for is an abridged version of what is going on in class. Then, when you get home or back to the dorm that afternoon or evening, write down your notes from the day. Do not just copy your notes. I didn't say copy them, I said rewrite them. Read your notes from class first. This gives you a chance to look over the information again and remind yourself what was taught in class. This is also a good way to get a kind of bird's eye view over all of the information taught. This is where you can start thinking about how to organize the information in your own way. Make it make sense for your brain. Did the teacher teach a list of verbs in alphabetical order? Maybe you prefer to have them grouped by theme or topic. You can change this when you rewrite your notes into your polished notebook. Draw the information in a chart or graph if it makes sense to do so. Put the conjugation of a verb in a table if you like. It's really up to you and how your brain organizes information. This is the most flexible part of my whole system, so do whatever works for you. You can incorporate bullet points, charts, lines, different colored pens, and highlighting to make all of your notes pretty and also make the most sense to you. Your notes should be a visual representation of how your brain sees the information. When you're taking the test or trying to recall the information for any other reason, you will remember the way that your notes looked in addition to the words that you wrote down. The important part here is that you are revisiting the information on the same day that you encountered it for the first time, and you're rewriting it in a more organized and complete fashion. What do I mean complete? Well, when you're writing in class, it is best if you have some sort of shorthand that helps you take notes more quickly. Don't spell out words that you don't need to. Don't worry if your abbreviations don't make sense to anyone else other than you. My wife abbreviates with CO, while I abbreviate it as W/. It really used to confuse me because I also abbreviate without as W/O, which occasionally made me think that she meant without when she meant with. Your shorthand is your shorthand, so if you want to leave off the end of a word, you can do that, as long as you know what the rest of the word is. When I wrote down the conjugation charts in college, I never wrote the verb stem more than once. After the first time, it was simply ST, T, and so on. You can even skip words entirely. Writing the, a, or an is often pointless. The notes that you take in class only need to be as thorough as you will need them when you're rewriting them later that day. In addition to shorthand, you can also increase the speed of your note-taking by using symbols like arrows, diagrams, and drawings to help you visualize the information. I found it was often helpful to use circles and arrows in German class to describe how the word order works or to show how things change throughout a sentence. If you don't know what to write, it's likely because the teacher didn't explain it in a way that made sense to you. If it doesn't make sense in class, it won't make sense when you're rewriting your notes later that day. Ask questions. Have the teacher give another example sentence or explain it in another way. Don't leave the classroom still confused. These are the general tips, but let's run down a quick overview of what you're doing so I know that you're getting it correct. Actively listen to the teacher. No distractions. Write thoroughly in class the most important information in the quickest way possible so that you can continue writing down more information. Later in the day, reread your notes, organize the information, and rewrite your notes to make it look better and to make it a better representation of the way your brain sees the information. Once you have rewritten your notes, it's important to read through them to make sure that everything you want to include is there and that you give your brain one more touch point for the information. When I say touch point, I mean how many times have you seen, heard, written, or read this information? The more touch points that you have, the better the information will stick in your brain. For an average day, you should have the following touch points. The teacher says something in class. You listen to the information and repeat it in your head. You write down the short version of what the information was into your notes. You read that shortened version when you get home later that day. You summarize that information and organize it. You rewrite that information. You read the organized version of the information again. If you do this, this means that you have interacted with this information 7 times before your head hits the pillow at night. This assumes that your teacher didn't do more than one example or have any of the students in class practice in any way. This is simply, the teacher said it and I made 6 more touch points for that information before I sleep. It's also recommended that you go through your notes on a weekly basis to review what you've learned that week and to remind your brain what you have been up to. I actually recommend rereading the previous day's notes when you start the rewriting process for the next lesson. This puts you into a sort of constant review state, each day that you reread notes from the last class and rewrite your notes from the current class. Then the next day you will reread the notes from all of the lessons for the week, and so on. Then rewrite the newest set of notes. All of the tips in this video will help you get the most out of your German course and make sure that you retain as much information from the course as possible. That said, there are limiting factors to what we need to talk about. If you aren't taking care of yourself, these notes will be worthless and you won't even be able to write down the important things that you need to during class because you can't be present and in the moment or even present in the classroom. So let's get real for a moment. Take care of yourself. I mean this in the most basic ways possible. Getting a good night's sleep each night before class. Setting a morning routine that helps you get ready for the day and not just roll out of bed and fall into a desk in class. Eating. Not just breakfast, but enough throughout the day that you keep your energy up and your brain is functioning at full capacity. All of these things are important, but those aren't the ones that I really want to focus on for my last tip of the day. Your brain only works as well as you allow it to. If you have other unresolved issues going on in your head, you won't be able to focus in class, and you also won't be able to take good notes. Find a way to clear your head of the bad and the ugly so you can focus on the good and the beautiful. You are the good. You are the beautiful. If no one has told you this today, you are amazing and you are worth the effort that you are putting into learning this language.